Those days. I remember those days.
Hello, Vinyl community. This is Tommy, and welcome to the Vinyl Tag 2024. I always love doing these videos. I think they're great introduction videos. If you have been on the fence about doing a video or jumping into making videos for the vinyl community, I think the Vinyl Tag is always a great way to introduce yourself. And I always look at these videos as sort of introductions as well into sort of my taste, what I'm about. I try to be broad with my answers. And so it's, you know, I think they're just fun videos. And so right off the bat, I want to thank Rob Walker for getting this started. And I've tried to limit the number of videos that I've watched. I'll be honest, I'm not a great video watcher to begin with, and I'll apologize for that right off the bat. But I do enjoy watching the Vinyl Tag videos, and I've seen a couple of you guys' videos just because I like to get a feel for what you guys are selecting, but I also don't like to cloud my own sort of feelings about it with you know, whatever. But anyway, Vinyl Tag 2024, Rob Walker got this started. I want to thank him for doing that. Go to his channel, subscribe, you know the bit. And while you're here, if this is your first time here, or maybe it's your 50th time here, maybe it's your 100th time here, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and do it. Love to have you along. I enjoy the comments, so comment down below. Let me know what you think. And I usually try to respond to the comments, so thanks. Happy 2024, everybody. Let's get on with the Vinyl Tag 2024. And I'm going to be looking down here at my questions, so it keeps me on track. But I have everything kind of organized, so hopefully we can kind of zip through it and have a lot of fun while we're doing it. So the first question is, what was your favorite record purchased in 2023? Well, mine was this bad boy, Velvet Crush, Teenage Symphonies to God. I did a video when they announced that they were reissuing this on vinyl. This was an album that came out in 1994. Rick Mink, Paul Chastain, Jeffrey Underhill. Great power pop record. And so Back Groove Records reissued this on vinyl. Pretty limited. Originally this came out on the Creation label, Sony. But man, this was one that I was so stoked to add to the vinyl collection. And those of you who know this record just know how good it is. Just really, really, really good stuff. So yeah, Velvet Crush, Teenage Symphonies to God, that was my favorite purchase, or my favorite record that I purchased in 2023. The next question is, what was the last record I bought in 2023? And of course, I regularly do new finds videos and all that. Well, here it is. This is the 77s, and it's just called 77s. I'm a big fan of this band. Mike Rowe was the main guy in this group, and this has Do It For Love on it, which is a great song. Mid 80s, early 80s. I hate to use the word Christian rock band because that implies, you know, Amy Grant and things of that. They and of course, looking at the cover of it, it's almost like they're a punk band, but they're not. A little punk attitude maybe, but yeah, the 77s. Yeah, last record I bought. Really good record too. Glad to have it. Band or artist who released more than one album in the same year. Now, this particular one was kind of hard for me. My first thought was to go back to the year before last when Jack White did his 2 albums in a year, but someone else already did that, so I went with something a little different, and several folks have had great answers, but I went with Yes, and these 2 fantastic albums, the Yes album and Fragile. Both of these albums were released in 1971, which is very cool. Of course, Yes has Yours Is No Disgrace, and I've Seen All Good People, which you guys kind of know that stuff. And of course, Fragile has Roundabout. So these sort of defined Yes as a band, a progressive rock group. But yeah, Yes, the Yes album and Fragile, 2 albums released in the same year. The next question is, if you could only listen to music from one decade, what decade would it be? That's a difficult question because there's so much great music in many decades. Of course, me leaning toward popular music, you can kind of go in any direction. Those of you who regularly watch my channel know that I'm a total fan of 60s music, 60s pop music. I grew up in the 80s, and so much of that music is just ingrained in me. The 90s was sort of my coming of age period, and I've got a lot of fond memories of 90s music. But I went with the 70s, and I went with the 70s really just because of how broad that period covers. I mean, you've got the wing stuff from, if you go Beatles direction, the rise of punk music, the progressive rock. My favorite power pop music comes from that era. The post-punk stuff, Elvis Costello, the country stuff from that period was really good. I'm going to go with the 70s. They're just, that's the one for me. And it's funny because I wouldn't have thought, if you'd have just laid that question on me, I don't know that I would have said that immediately, but after a lot of thought, a lot of consideration, I went with the 70s. Show a record by a band or artist who is from Manchester. Rob is from Manchester, England, and a lot of you guys have been showing some great stuff, and I don't know how out on a limb I am with this, but that is Billy Duffy from The Cult, from Manchester. This is the Cult album Sonic Temple, which is a fantastic hard rock album. Of course, the big hit Fire Woman was the big song off this album. It came out, I think, 89 when it came out. But yeah, Sonic Temple, The Cult, Billy Duffy right there looking awesome on the front cover from Manchester. So yeah, Billy Duffy. Let me see. The next question is, in 2023, which artist did you listen to the most? And this answer is going to be Bob Dylan. Always listen to a lot of Bob. This is the last album he came out with, Shadow Kingdom, which was the sort of the re-recordings of a lot of his older stuff. But I listen to a lot of Bob, not only because Shadow Kingdom came out, but because with the Fragments box set, and just, whenever I'm just in a mood to listen to anything, I'll grab Bob Dylan stuff. And so Bob Dylan was the artist I listened to the most in 2023. Now the next one was show 7 7-inches. Let me get my stat here. So 7 7-inches was what they called for, and I kind of randomly, I don't do a lot of 7 inches, but I kind of just randomly went through my stuff and just pulled some stuff out. Just, there's no rhyme or reason to this, so don't try to follow me. I'm just going to show them. But the first one I want to show is Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra. This is Some Velvet Morning. This is the one that came out on Record Store Day a couple of years ago. The Other Side is Tired of Waiting for You. Very cool. I'm a big fan of Lee Hazelwood. Regular watchers to my channel are aware of this. London Calling by The Clash. And, yeah, Armageddon Time on The Other Side. But yeah, The Clash, the only band that matters. Love this band. Love that album. And that's just a cool 7-inch. Another one is just a favorite 7-inch. The Beatles, Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. This is the Record Store Day version that came out in 2017, sort of in anticipation for the Sgt. Pepper box. And this is the one with the remix of Giles Martin. The next one is kind of an interesting one. It's one I ordered. The band Feltworth. Feltworth is a band of puppets. This is a Canadian group. Forget This Feeling, You Turn Me On. And you can look them up on YouTube, but I believe there may be some connections to the band Swan. This is a fun power pop thing. Another one was just a favorite sort of 45. I love this one. Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. This is My Guitar and Dog Breath. My Guitar is just a fun, cool song, and this is just a great 45. The next one is a 45 that I don't think gets talked about a lot in the VC, but I feel like it needs to be talked about a lot more. It's the band Grapefruit and the song Lullaby. Now, this particular 45 is the Record Store Day version that came out. It's a mono mix. But Lullaby was produced by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. You heard me right. It was recorded in London in 1968. Yeah, my Beatle people, where are you at with Grapefruit? Cool band and cool song, and so I thought worthy to show the 45. And the last 45 is, those of you who know me, this is probably one of my favorite 45s ever that I own, and I'm going to actually pull it out of the sleeve here just because. This is on the Ardent label. This is the band The Hot Dogs, and it's a promo copy. You can see the little promo sticker up there. This is a promo copy. This is the song Thanks, and produced by Terry Manning. And on the other side is I Walk the Line, which is a cover of the Johnny Cash song. And if anyone's ever paid me a visit, I will usually play this version of I Walk the Line for them because I absolutely love it. It is hilariously awesome. And when I say hilariously awesome, I don't mean it's hilariously bad. I think it's awesome. It's a power pop version of I Walk the Line, and I love it. So check that out if you haven't heard it. The next question is, who is coming to the party? This is 4 people that I would invite to a dinner party that are having, music related. They could be dead or alive. There's no rules, just 4 people I'd love to have over. Now, this is another one of those questions that I sort of toyed with, where to go, what do you do with this? And you start thinking, well, there's some easy ones, like some of you, like, just invite the 4 Beatles over, just hang out with the Beatles. And I kind of went with, like, a couple of things, like, not only people I would like to meet, but people I think would be interesting to talk to, and people that might be fun to have at a dinner party, and plus just 4 people I want to get in a room together. It could break out in a fist fight by the end of the evening, I don't know, but just to be in the room with these guys would be really cool. And so, with that said, the first one is going to be Pete Townsend. Pete has been a musical hero for a long time. This is the album All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes, which is one of my all-time favorite albums ever made by anyone. All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes. I love Pete and would love to have him over. The next one would be Jeff Lynne. Again, Jeff Lynne. This is his album Armchair Theater. Of course, everybody knows Jeff Lynne from ELO and Traveling Wilburys. Producer Tom Petty. He's worked with so many cool people. But I love Jeff, and we just, love to hang out with him. And I think he'd be fun to hang out with. The next one is another musical hero of mine, and I wanted to throw this guy into the mix just because what do you do when you get Pete Townsend, Jeff Lynne, and Michael Nesmith into a room together? Nez, again, one of my heroes, Michael Nesmith from the Monkees. This is the newer stuff, the late 80s Rhino compilation. But yeah, Michael Nesmith, I want him at my party just because he's brilliant, and I think he could keep up with those guys. And finally, the last person I would invite, the 4th person, and again, I thought about this because I'm like, there's people like Bob Dylan. I don't want Bob Dylan at my party. Sorry, Bob. I love you to death. I don't want to meet Bob Dylan. I think it would be a disappointment. Sorry. I mean, again, I admire Bob. Brian Wilson's another one. And we'll get to more on that later. But I went with Paul McCartney. I know it's kind of typical. This is all the best. But yeah, McCartney. So what do you get when you get 3 Brits and a Texan in a room? But yeah, I went with Pete Townsend, Jeff Lynne, Michael Nesmith, and Paul McCartney. I think that'd be an interesting party, to say the least. The next one is someone we lost in 2023, and the first name that came to mind. And I said, well, this is probably going to be maybe, I won't say the biggest musical loss of the year. There were several great people we lost, but I went with Robbie Robertson of the band. And of course, this is that self-titled album. Robbie, I pointed, Robbie is over here. Before you guys' heads blow up, I realized I pointed to Rick. But yeah, I mean, what a special group, what a special artist, means so much to so many people. Robbie Robertson of the band. The next question is, if I could only listen to music from one country. That's a difficult question for a lot of reasons. Because, I mean, when you think a lot, so, my dinner party, a Texan and three Brits and a Texan. The Beatles, the Who. I went with the United States. Again, the same reason I went with the 70s. It's the broad stroke, and I know I'd be missing out on so many great artists, but when I start thinking about other bands that I really love too, bands like, REM and artists like Tom Petty, and there's so much, and that's a tough question to answer, because when you think about it, you don't get to hear the Beatles anymore. That's a big loss. So thanks, Rob, for such a tough question. The next question is three VC discoveries, or vinyl community discoveries. As I said at the beginning of my video, I don't watch nearly as many of you guys' channels as I wish that I could. It's a time issue, and I'll be honest with you guys, when I'm not making videos, I'm enjoying listening to music, and there are some great channels out there. I love the vinyl community. I love that it is what it is. It's a community, and that's really cool. But I did want to shout out 3 channels just because that's what the question called for. The first one is PC31, the Vinyl Policeman. Just recently discovered his stuff. He did a great vinyl community vinyl tag 2024. And if you haven't seen his stuff, I think he's got interesting taste. It's eclectic. He kind of goes all over the map, but his taste tend to kind of run concurrent closely with mine. Very cool channel, great personality. Go check him out. Late Night Dead Wax is another one that I recently discovered, and another one just cool stuff and great content. And it's a relatively new channel. I mean, he just kind of started making videos in the last year, so go check him out. And another one, I just want to get more subscribers for him, because I think he does great content, again, and another cool channel. And I mean, the whole idea is that we're propping up other channels. And shout outs is Rich Strickler. If you haven't seen Rich's videos, or you haven't checked out his content, go do so and subscribe to the channel. I think it was the Vinyl Policeman, maybe, I can't remember. One of these guys sort of said, hey, hit the subscribe button. So, I know it gets old. Every one of these videos, we're like, please subscribe, but do it. I mean, it's not anything except just hitting a button, and it's not like we're going to bombard you with anything. So it doesn't hurt to subscribe, and it shows a sign of support. And so you should do it. The next question is a record bought when I was a teenager. I spun this yesterday, and so maybe it was on my mind, and I guess it just kind of came up. This actually could fall into one of the later questions as well. But I went with this album. This is the Black Album by Metallica, released in 1991. This is one of the biggest selling albums of all time. But I remember buying this album, being a big fan, and just really, this album was kind of my high school years early on. This was the album, like I said, came out in 91. This would have been, I think, their 6th studio album. They toiled through the 80s with relentless touring, not really doing music videos, no real radio airplay. But this is the one that just broke them wide. They were everywhere. And it's heavy. It's a meaty album. And like I said, I spun it yesterday. And, I mean, if hard music's your thing, I mean, it's the way to go. The next one is show a soul or funk record. The first band I thought of was one of my all-time favorite bands, Tower of Power. Now, this is their self-titled album. And this was released, I think, in 73. So it's 40 years old now. 50 years old. Oh, my gosh. Then time flies. But yeah, this is a sort of Bay Area group. The thing about Tower of Power, if you don't know, the horn section is what they were built on. This horn section is played on so many records. But Lenny Williams was singing with them on this album. Lenny was probably my favorite vocalist of theirs. This has probably their biggest hit, What Is Hip. But it's also got stuff like So Very Hard to Go, which is a great ballad. Soul Vaccination, so funky. Just tight band. Shout out to the bass player, Rocco Prestia, and of course the drummer, David Garibaldi. I mean, this band has a tight rhythm section. Rocco had this finger style, funk style. If you're a bass guy, he didn't do the slap and pop like a lot of funk guys. It was all in his fingers. And if you listen to just the bass line on What Is Hip, you'll be a fan. Really great group. The next question is, show a record that everyone has, and by contrast, show a record that no one has. Now, the first record I grabbed was Thriller by Michael Jackson, because, I mean, the biggest selling album of all time. So naturally, you assume everybody has it. Rumors by Fleetwood Mac pops in there. I mean, you guys are showing a lot of cool stuff. And yeah, records everyone has. But I went with Abbey Road by the Beatles. I feel like, no matter where you are on the Beatles, chances are Abbey Road's the one you've got. It's the most contemporary sounding Beatles album, which is why so many people, I think, love it. And it's a classic. It's a lot of you guys' favorites. So, yeah, Abbey Road by the Beatles, a record everyone has. Now, the next one, show a record that no one has. Now, this record, if you've got any of those books that talk about bad record covers and all that stuff, you've probably seen this record, but I don't know anyone that actually has this record. It is Julie's 16th Birthday by John Bolt. Just admire that cover right there. I got this album steel sealed. It's on the Rochelle Records label, and I think maybe part of my luck in this record is that it's probably not far from where I'm from in Mississippi. And like I said, it was a sealed copy. I opened it because I had to know about the title track. Now, I'm not going to talk about the title track. There, you can probably go find it somewhere. I did a video over on my other channel that I used to run a couple of years ago, Daily Records, and I did a video on this. Look it up. I'm not going to talk about it, but does anyone have this record? If you do, comment. Let me know that you've got it. I've got it. I don't know that anybody else actually owns the record. Now, the next question is, She's Great. Show a record by a female artist from 2023. And so I went with Strays by Margot Price. This was her last album on the Loma Vista label. Margot got her start with Jack White's Third Man, which is probably, how I got into Margot. She started out more of a straight-ahead sort of country thing, and this is not really a country album. It's more of a pop rock kind of thing, but it's got some really good songs on it. And so, yeah, it's been a record that I've enjoyed, and so there you go. Margot Price's Strays. She's great. Favorite video that I made and a favorite video that I've watched. And I kind of immediately, something that came to mind for me as far as videos that I've done was the video I did just a couple of months ago where I went to Athens, Georgia for the Mickey Dolenz Dolan Sings REM record release party. But that was a great day. I don't know if the content of the video sort of relates to just how awesome it was, but it was a great day because I met Mickey Dolenz, which was very cool. Also met 3 of the 4 REM guys, which was amazing. And they were great. And also met Henry Diltz, the photographer, and a lot of people that I kind of had talked to and known about. My friend Brent Cash, who I've talked about on this channel, he was there that day, got to hang out with him. Michael Guthrie. And I met some new friends that day, Chris McKay. I just was able to meet some really cool people and hang out with some awesome people, and it was just a really, really special day. And that video is my favorite video that I did last year. And a video that I watched, or a favorite video that I watched, and I'm going to go to on this one, a little bit cheating, but it's the same person. But my good buddy, Sam St. John, who's been on this channel before. You've seen me on his channel. But I want to give a shout out because he did a video fairly recently on why he loves Bob Dylan. And one of the things about Sam, and I know there's people that have done these sort of praise Sam videos, and he's worthy of all of it. But one of the things I enjoy about Sam is that Sam, he's an old soul. He's much older in his years. I mean, as far as maturity goes, than he actually is. But Sam is still in that place, and I kind of see a lot of myself in that, where, you know, the wonder of discovering new music and going to concerts. And so his enthusiasm for music and his passion for it really, really shines through. And that video in particular, where he just basically talks about why he thinks Bob Dylan is great. Now, we all think Bob Dylan's great, right? I mean, you know, but he conveys it in a way, it's heartfelt, and it just has this sort of, you know, bit of, like, Sam doesn't have the cynicism that I think some of us older VCers have developed over the years. And I'll admit, I'm very cynical, especially about new music, and I kind of don't like that. I remember that time in my life where it was always about reading about bands and discovering bands and checking them out. And I've reached a point now where it's like, I want to just kind of stay in my bubble and enjoy what I enjoy. But Sam doesn't have that. So his enthusiasm really comes through. And when he shares that enthusiasm, and you can see it in that particular video about, you know, his love for Dylan. And it's great to watch. Now, the second one I want to talk about, because I want to encourage Sam, is he did a video. He's always doing videos of him playing songs. And lots of songs, but he did an original song called Dream of Me. Go back and watch that video. It's a song that he wrote, and so I want Sam to keep writing songs. I think it's a wonderful little song, and so just as sort of an encouragement to Sam, to encourage him to do more original stuff, and I want to see and hear songs that he writes. So Sam, there you go. Don't let that big head get bigger, but anyway, thankful for your friendship, and I love your passion for music. It's great. Show me a 90s classic. A 90s classic. Now, I could have done the Metallica album. Now, I have to be careful with this because I have to do a little bit of editorial engineering here, but I went with an obvious one. I went with Nevermind by Nirvana. This album was a game changer and such an important album. And I think this album really kind of defined the 90s, at least the early 90s. But yeah, I mean, Nevermind by Nirvana, classic album in every way. And it's the 90s. So yeah, there you go. We're winding it down. Question 18. I could walk into the cover of this album. And I kind of cheated with this one. I kind of did the dinner party cheat on this. Because I really think it would be fun to walk into the cover of Pet Sounds. And I know there's a lot of people. This album album cover has its detractors, but it's there's a reason. I mean, this looks like it'd just be a fun day. I mean, hanging out at the zoo with the Beach Boys in 1966. Brian was at his peak creatively, and just, you know, the guys were just in a good place, I feel like. And so, yeah, if I could walk into a cover, I mean, just to hang out at the, I believe it's the San Diego Zoo in 1968, you know, and feed the goats. I think it'd be fun. And an album that feels like a greatest hits. I think the sort of scenario is it's an album that you know so well, or an album that you've listened to so much that every song feels like it's a greatest hits. This is one, I love this album. This band begins and ends with this album for me, but every song on it really, again, defines like a radio format. It's the self-titled album by Boston. I think every song on here is one that you probably know. If you've put on a classic rock radio station, in the last 30 years, you've heard this album, and it's so overplayed. It's so been listened to so much or been played so much that we kind of take it for granted. But I mean, it is a brilliant album. I mean, it still sounds amazing. And yes, the little spaceships, haha, they're guitars. We fooled you. But no, this album feels like a greatest hits. It's not, but it feels like it. And finally, the last question, an album that turns 50 this year, 1974 would be the release date of the album, and I couldn't resist the opportunity to showcase one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite albums by one of my favorite bands. I went with Radio City by Big Star, the William Eggleston cover. Love this album. This was the second album that came out when they were a three-piece. Chris Bell had left the band by this point. Now, you talk about an album cover that I would like to walk into. I actually considered this because of the back cover. This was taken at a TGI Fridays in Memphis. This guy, just what is going on there? But this is a great power pop album. Of course, this album has the classic September Girls on it, which is one of the signature Big Star songs. It's just a solid album through and through, top to bottom. One of the great all-time albums by anybody. But yeah, Radio City, happy 50th. Speaking of which, just as a heads up, I don't know if you guys subscribe to HBO Max here in the States, but apparently the Big Star documentary, Nothing Can Hurt Me, is streaming on that platform. So if you haven't seen that movie, you should see it as a music fan. I've talked a lot about Big Star on my channel, so I'm not going to add anything. But yeah, check that out. So that is it. The Vinyl Tag 2024. Thanks again, Rob, for getting it going. Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate everyone that has been along for my channel. I look forward to many, many great adventures in 2024 and hope to bring you along for a lot more. And just strap in, guys. We're going to have a good time. You do a video now. It's your turn. If you do one, put it down there. And I think Rob's going to do a playlist. So send a link to him and let him know that you've done it. And yeah, it's a fun video. It's a great way to introduce to the VC. That's all I've got. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.